Hi, I'm Beatrice Go and welcome to Rappler Talk. Today we'll be speaking with Filipina LPGA rookie Bianca Pagdanganan, who had a stunning 2020 Women's PGA Championship debut. She crashed into the top 10, finishing ninth place to make her first year as a professional more memorable. So, hi Bianca, how have you been over there?
Hi, V. Thank you for having me. I've been good. Been resting a bit after the tournament.
Yeah, are you still on a high though from your first major?
I mean, maybe a little bit, not as much anymore. I feel like it's kind of hard to believe that I played my first major and finished in the top 10. That's actually also my first top 10 finish in any LPGA event, so it's pretty cool.
I know, like, actually, what by yung bandang like second and third round, bogey free performances. Like, man, like, how did you even do that?
I don't know. I guess I was really in the zone. I made like a couple birdies and I was like, you know what? I think I'm playing good. Yeah, I'll stay cool throughout the rest of the round and see what happens. And then it ended up being bogey free, and I was like, I actually did that. Wow.
I Yeah, and then so what were your expectations before the tournament? Because I did watch some of your interviews and you were saying that it was actually a very challenging course.
Yeah, it really was. I so before I went to Pennsylvania, actually, I stayed in New Jersey for a bit, and I was able to play another golf course here that was designed by the same person who designed that Aronimink. And I was the member I played with told me, oh, it's going to be pretty similar to the scores. So obviously my expectations are already pretty high because the course I played it was already challenging. So after seeing the golf course for the first time, I was like, it plays kind of long. And I mean, you could make birdies, but at the same time, it's easy to kind of mess up a few holes as long as you just know where to miss. So my expectations weren't that high. I was like, you know what? I told myself, pars this week is gonna be good and bogeys are gonna be okay. Just don't beat yourself up.
So when was the turning point when you found out, well, when you got the feeling that, hey, I can actually do this?
You mean like during the tournament now?
Yeah, during the tournament.
Okay, so I guess it was like during the second round in my back nine. Because I played the back. Okay, on the first round, I started on 10, and I did not play the back nine very great. And then the second round, I actually played better on my back nine. And I was like, it's actually doable. You just have to play a little conservative. You need to know where to miss, and you can actually post a good score. So I was playing out the back line, and I was like, I just gotta stay steady. Don't be too aggressive, and you can actually play this course well. So I guess it was like the second round. I was playing my back nine.
Yeah, and you repeated it in the third round pa.
Yeah, I did. I don't know. I was just like, I felt good about those two rounds. I have no idea why. I just because usually I'm an aggressive player, but then that course you can't be super aggressive, you can't be too aggressive because if you miss it on the wrong side, then it'll be a little bit harder to save a par. But yeah, I think playing conservative really helped me a lot.
And even actually in your final round, you finished the whole tournament with a birdie. So what were your thoughts back then already?
I was actually like obviously when I'm on the golf course, like I like walking by myself. Like I have a caddy, but sometimes I like being by myself. Sometimes I kind of talk to well, not really like out loud, but I talk to myself like in my head. I was just like, wow, you played two rounds with 10 birdies, and now you're playing the last round and you haven't made a single one. So on the last hole, I was like, just hit one good drive and a solid second shot to the green. Maybe you can give yourself a chance. But then I hit my second shot. It wasn't the shot that I was trying to execute, but I probably had like a 30-foot putt for birdie. And I was like, this is still a chance. Like you can still make it. And I had like a really good line and I felt good about that. And then as soon as I hit the putt and it started my ball started rolling on my line that I had just imagined it to pass, I was like, I think I'm gonna make a birdie. Oh my gosh, my first birdie. And I was like, it's better late than never, but I made one on the last hole. And I was just like, oh, sometimes I do put a little pressure on myself. It's like, my goal is to finish at least in the top 10. Like, I was already in it. I need to stay in there. So I was like, maybe this will help me, because I didn't really know where I was at that point. Like, I was one over going to the last hole, so I didn't really know where I was in terms of standing. But when I made that putt, like after the round, my caddy was like, "Oh, good job, you finished in the top 10." I was like, "Nice, thank you."
Whoa, and you did finish ninth place, pa, like even though it was a joint, and then did you know that you were already gonna qualify for the US Women's Open on December?
Honestly, I kind of forgot about that nga eh. I was like, okay, maybe I have a chance. And after the round, my caddy told me, "Oh, I think you might have just qualified for the US Open." I was like, right, this is still like a qualifying event for the US Open. And then it wasn't until after, when I was like being interviewed already, they were like, "Oh, so what are your thoughts?" And I was just like, wow, I got into the US Open. Because like the past few tournaments, I was trying to get in, like I was like pushing myself. I was like, but then I didn't play that great. And then it just so happened that I played good in a major.
Yeah, and it was your debut major. How important is this US Open for you?
The US Open in December. Well, honest, because obviously in the past years, they had qualifiers, and I've actually tried to qualify for the US Open twice. I played probably in like the past 4 years. I've tried to play twice, and I never qualified. So now that I was able to get into the US Open by playing in a major and finishing in the top 10, I feel like it's very fulfilling, kind of overwhelming. I'm just like, I I don't know. I really don't have the words to explain what I'm just really excited because after like how many years of trying, I finally got in.
Yeah, it ended up in, leading up with a very good story as well. So, and actually, I would also like to congratulate you for setting the LPGA record for the largest leap in a single week in the world rankings. So, from world number 712, you're now world number 234. That's
Oh my god.
478 places. How did you feel about it when I kind of broke the news to you?
I know that was like one way to greet me good morning. I was like, I did. I don't know. I honestly didn't think that people would keep track. I mean, obviously people look at like your standings, like like what you said, 712, and then jumping up to 200. I'm not even 100% sure because I don't really look, but then people actually pay attention to how many spots you jumped. And that is, I mean, obviously, like I said, I don't pay attention. I just try to stick to my game. I focus on myself when I play. And, if you play well, then obviously you move up rankings or whatever. So, I mean, that's a pretty cool record, I guess. Something I did not really expect.
And that also puts you in contention for a slot in the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Have you also been targeting a berth in the Tokyo, to go to Tokyo?
Yeah, of course. As an athlete, playing in the Olympics is wow. That's probably the goal for most of us. And I guess being able to represent the country again on a big stage, yes, definitely. I've been aiming for the Olympics, but I still have a while. Like I still have a year to hopefully work on the rankings. So fingers crossed. Hopefully, I continue playing well.
Yeah. What is the qualification system and what tournaments do you have to join in order to qualify for the Olympics?
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure about how it goes, but I think it's like, so there are top 60 in the Rolex rankings, I think automatically qualify to play in the Olympics. But then, from what I last heard, again, I'm not 100% sure. I think they give like two spots or a number of spots to each country so that, they have someone who represents them. So I'm not so sure. I probably have to look into that if I'm really aiming to play in the Olympics.
Yeah, I think they're only getting four participants from each country. So everyone who for other countries, if they have more than four, they'll have to bump off the other people and let the other countries get a slot.
Okay.
Yeah. So actually, like, what will be, you had a really great week, So what were your biggest takeaways from this tournament and even, making it to the US Open?
I think coming in or with this being my rookie year, I obviously just tried to make sure that I had fun in every event. But then after this major, I think it was more of a realization that you don't have to force yourself to do something great. It's for me, I think I realized that I can compete at this level with all these great players. So it's more of learning that you in order to play well, part of it is you have to believe that you can play well. I feel like I get so much support from everyone else telling me that, oh, you can play well, like you can do it. But I feel like those two, I mean, they mean something, but not as much as when you start believing in yourself. So yeah, honestly, it made me more excited to play more events, knowing that, like I said, I can compete in that level in a
Yes, more
major event.
motivated. So how was it like playing beside, Inbee Park? She won the Rio 2016 Rio Olympics and she's also a seven-time major winner.
It was crazy. The first time I actually saw her was 2 years ago, and I was an amateur. I was in Singapore, and it was the first Women's Asia Pacific Amateur Championship, WAB. Yeah, but that was the first year they hosted it in Singapore, and I remember like all the girls were kind of walking back to our hotel because it was just across the street from the golf course. And then everyone was like, oh my gosh, it's Inbee Park. I was like, where? And then we look in the driving range and she's just there practicing. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like, I think that was like the first time I've seen an LPGA player. I don't remember besides at the Jero, but I was like, oh my gosh, that's Inbee Park. And then when I was on the tee box on the last round of the KPMG, I was kind of like, I'm playing with Inbee Park, who I just saw in the driving range 2 years ago when I was an amateur. I feel like it was unbelievable. I mean, just, growing up, I would only watch her on TV or like I'd only talk about her, but then being able to like play a round of golf with her and see how she plays, I was just like, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm kind of starstruck a little bit, but B, you gotta focus still. So, yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun watching her play.
Yeah, were you able to interact with her, like,
Not
eventually?
really, honestly. No, she was kind of quiet and I was too shy to talk. I was like, I don't know if she wants to talk or she's the type to talk. So I'm just gonna stay in my own, like in my own space. But yeah, no, sadly I wasn't.
Yeah, how different was it like watching her, with your own eyes, like you're very near her, like compared to watching her on TV?
It was insane. Like I've had so many people tell me about Inbee Park, like, oh, she just hits the middle of the fairway, like she has such a smooth swing. And I was like, I know. And then when I was watching her, I was like, well, they weren't wrong. It was, I don't know, I can't really explain it. It's just, she makes it look so easy. She hits it in the middle of the fairway, hits it on the green, and then makes a putt. Sana all. Like it was so easy for her. I was like, one day maybe I'll be able to make golf look that easy.
Yeah, like that, the control on the ball and her swing, that's insane.
It is.
So
It really
actually, you're
is.
also like the tour driving distance leader. So, and I know I've heard like so I've read and heard your interviews, you're just like, I don't know how I did that. But then, well, actually, after this tournament, you had so many really realizations. Well, do you have an idea already, like how, you made it that far?
Wait, sorry, can you repeat that? That was kind of
Yeah,
choppy.
like, oh yeah, because you've been saying that you don't know how you actually you're ac- you actually reached to be the driving distance leader of the tour, but after the tournament, did you have any realizations on it?
It's kind of funny because in my last tournament at the KPMG, I didn't really try to hit it hard. I wasn't swinging it as hard as I usually do because I was like, I need to hit more fairways and not like I'm not trying to be in the thick grass right now if I really want to, shoot a low score. But like I said, I just I think about it a lot, and of course, like having distance is a great advantage, but it's not really everything. I think I mean, I've known that for a while already, but at the same time, it's just you also need to learn how to use it to your advantage. But of course, like there's still other things in my game that I really need to work on. Like, of course, like watching Inbee Park, she's not the longest hitter, but she's able to win and contend in all these tournaments. So it just makes me think that, y- y- there's still so much to work on, like short game, and there's so much to golf that you can't really focus on just one thing.
Yeah, so how is it different training as a professional compared to an amateur?
I just probably put in a little more extra hours in practice. I mean, I feel like when I was in college, I did put in a good amount of time practicing. I think we practiced like 3, 4 hours a day. I don't even, and then I'd play a round of golf. But I feel like, being able to play college golf was definitely able to help me with like my work ethic and just having a good schedule, knowing what things to work on. So it's definitely been a big help now that I turned pro. But I guess it doesn't really hurt to be a little more serious, to put in a little more time and work into practice. So I wouldn't say there's like a huge difference, but I guess it's just the intensity of how I practice. But of course, also listening to my body and just not trying to overwork myself.
Yeah. And you actually wanted to get a head start on your LPGA career, if I remember. But, how did you end up deciding to just start this year?
Well, yeah, I mean, I could have easily turned pro right after I got my card last year, but then I still I still have one class to finish in college, so I just didn't see the point of turning pro right away. And I still played in Southeast Asian Games, which I wanted to be my last event. But yeah, I think it was definitely worth the wait. I mean, I feel like I was able to prepare a little more, even with that little bit of time that I had.
Yeah. And then I guess like you kicked off your pro career in January, then maybe on March, like, the world of sport just went into lockdown, it shut down,
Yeah.
and you had to train in quarantine. So how was your setup like?
Well, it was tough. I probably didn't start practicing until like a little. I don't know. I probably didn't hold a club for a couple weeks, and then I realized that it's probably gonna be a while before they actually let us out of the house again. So because I'm staying at or yeah, I'm based in San Diego. So in the backyard, like we set up our own driving range. So there was a net and then just a mat, and I would hit into that. And it was like that for the longest time. And it was definitely a lot harder than what people think. Because, obviously, when you're on the golf course or when you're actually out in the driving range, it's easy to, like, if you want to practice for 3 hours, it's easy to, like, cut that into different aspects of your game. Like, you can spend an hour in the range, an hour putting, an hour chipping. But I felt like I had to put in the same amount of effort, even if it was just backyard practice. So I'd practice 2 hours just like hitting into a net. And then I had like it's called a swing caddy. So basically when you hit, it gives you the distance and all that. So it was definitely a lot harder. But yeah, my schedule is basically wake up, workout, practice. So it's like already like 3.5 hours. But I guess the motivation was just wanting to be mentally and physically prepared when season starts. So but I knew that everyone was going through the same thing, practicing in their backyards. You could see it all over social media. So yeah, I think it was more of just making sure I was prepared coming into like my first tournament.
Yeah. And how did you bounce back to resume the season and resume regular training?
Well, as soon as they allowed us to like leave the house, I was like, I need to go to the golf course. At least I know people aren't gonna be as close. I mean, obviously, practice social distancing and all that. For the first few weeks, I practiced with a mask on, and honestly, it wasn't the easiest thing ever. Yeah, I just had to wear a mask while I was in the driving range, and I don't know, I was really excited to be back out, so it wasn't that, I don't know, I just couldn't wait to like not hit into a net. I was like for the longest time I was like I need to see my ball fly and actually see how far it went. So I guess it was just a matter of time until we actually got out. But yeah, like I said, it's the same intensity, and I feel like I felt more focused when I was out in the like driving range and just being able to see my ball roll and all that. So I guess it's more of like not taking things for granted.
Yeah, that's true because everyone did miss training in their normal setup, right?
Yeah.
For well, in based on like your training in quarantine, like what did you focus on yourself?
In terms of training and quarantine, I'm not the biggest, like, I don't work out as much as I should. But then during quarantine, I was like, you I didn't like I haven't played competitive golf in so long. So my first event was in July or June maybe, and my last competitive event was probably the SEA Games in November. So that was a while, and I was like, you can't slack off just because you think everyone's at home. Like everyone is making sure they're prepared for the first event. So my mindset was like, I need to like be stronger physically and mentally and make sure I'm prepared to, play your first event. So it was more of that motivate. I don't know. Like for me, I was so motivated to just, stay in shape. And I just, at that time, I also didn't know which tournament was going to be my first event. So I knew that I had to be prepared for whatever was to come.
Oh my God, that was almost 8 months of no
Yeah,
competition.
it was so weird. My first event, I was, before my first event, I was honestly like going through the rules of golf. It's really silly. I mean, I should know this by heart, but I was like, okay, just browse through like the easiest rules and just make sure that you still remember them. I mean, it was what, 8 months, but still, yeah, it was
Yeah.
weird.
And how different is it now, competing in a golf tournament with all these like health protocols, like safety, and there's some people who are like still a bit anxious about this, anxious about, the coronavirus.
I feel like at first it was pretty difficult, especially when it comes to like planning your trip. I mean, obviously, I didn't know the experience before the coronavirus or how people schedule their trips, but now for the LPGA, we get tested twice. So one at home and then one on site. So obviously, you need to schedule. You have to remember the days when you take the tests because it's only like you're only allowed to take it like a certain number of days before you travel out. It's those small details. So I feel like it makes it a little difficult. And like let's say you're an alternate for an event, they have this. I don't know if it's like a rule for every event, but basically, if you're in the top 5 alternates on the reserve list, you have to be on site for the testing. Like, you have to be there for the 2 days. So, I mean, it's a little difficult, traveling without really knowing if you're in an event or not, and still trying to make sure that, you're prepared to play for the week. I guess it's, I'd say, one of the challenges ever since, like, this whole COVID situation. But then, they say that, I mean, it's kind of hard playing at the back of your head, like, oh, with the whole COVID situation going on. But at the same time, I feel like the LPGA has done a really great job trying to keep everyone safe and healthy, like making sure that everyone who has access to like the tournament grounds have been tested. So I think it still makes me a little bit more calm despite all the like anxiety just thinking about this whole situation.
That's good. At least you're able to focus. So,
Yeah.
what's next for you in terms of like your schedule of tournaments, and what are the goals that you want to achieve by the end of the year?
So next up, I'm heading out to Georgia for another tournament, which is next week. I think it's from like the 22nd to the 25th or 26th. So I have that, but I'm not in the tournament yet. Like I said, I think I'm second alternate in the reserve list, but I have to be there. And then after that, I think my next tournament is gonna be in like second or third week of November. So I have like a couple of weeks to, just think about my own game and knowing what else I can improve on and prepare for, the US Open in December. So I'm also not sure if I can get into the 2 other events before that. I guess my goal is just hopefully get another good finish in a major. I mean, I was able to put myself in a good position at the KPMG, so I think that's kind of a motivation for me to do well in my next major or my next event.
Are there awards for rookies in the LPGA?
There's actually a Rookie of the Year award. I'm not really sure where I'm at in terms of that, but I really don't know. I just try to stick to my own game and focus because obviously when you play well, that's when all these other factors come in. So I just try to focus on what I can control.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bianca, for joining us, and congratulations. You really made us so proud.
Thank you.
My
Thank you so much
gosh,
for
just a
having me.
rookie, and yeah, at top 10, and now you're heading out to the US Open. So, yeah, thanks for joining me, Bianca. And again, this is Beatrice Ga, and see you then.